For this Go Gardening segment for our beginning gardeners, we thought we'd talk a little bit about succulents, either in the garden or in containers. They are increasing in popularity, certainly not decreasing, and there's some pretty good reasons for that. They're also not necessarily something that is going to be hard to grow, because they are one of those plants that if you set it and you forget it, you're going to probably have a little bit more success than you do if you really baby them to death. So what we're looking at is a whole bunch of the different succulents in a very large container, and then some of the little bitty ones that you can actually purchase and use either in containers, or you can set them in the soil, in the garden, in the landscape, if it's hot, if it's dry, and more importantly, if it is really, really well drained. The ones that are in the big containers actually started out as these little guys. 5 or 6 or 7 or 10 years later, depending on how fast they grow, they turn into big, beautiful, wonderful textural plants that add an accent in containers, at the front door, on your patio, even against a pool or on a table. One of the things that they do not like is they do not like shade. And in this case, these live outside all summer long. And what happens with them then is we bring them in because we don't want to throw them in the compost pile. So they start to stretch and they get a little strange, and then we think, okay, can we make them live through the winter? We will pinch, we will root some of them, and we will put them back outside where they belong. You can almost do this indefinitely with some of the succulents, and some of them really do get monstrously huge. People are probably pretty well aware of jade plant as an example. There's a baby jade, and then of course there are jade plants that are really humongous and just have this great craggy, almost a bonsai sort of an appearance. The little guys, if you'll notice, they're in these interesting containers. The container itself, of course, is not interesting, but they're in these little bitty containers, and they have this gravel mix. So there is actually a fertilizer that you can use to give them some nutrition if necessary, but it's really that incredibly well-drained situation that makes the succulents grow best. I have a bag of that you can look at, and again, if you look at the differences in textures and in forms, some of them are going to bloom beautifully. You can combine them with cacti. You can again keep them indefinitely. We don't have a lot of succulents that are the wild and crazy ones that will survive outdoors in a garden situation. They're simply not hardy enough here, and we have too high of humidity and we have too much moisture oftentimes. The one that does come to mind, of course, is our regular sedums that are a go-to landscape plant. And essentially it's the same sort of thing. It's the same family. It's this succulent foliage that is actually something that does not transpire readily, holds moisture in, almost like the hump on a camel, only instead this is plant material. So you have all sorts of options for succulents in dish gardens, in large containers, mixed in with other annuals or even perennials that really have the same sort of moisture and drainage requirements. Gives you a beautiful textural landscape in your garden.